All righty then. Let's go to the mother of all television programs, the brand new Raw on Netflix. Raw is Netflix. That doesn't work, does? What's Netflix backwards? Exilftin. Yes, it doesn't work.
Why would you why do you need it backwards? What was the point of that?
Remember Raw is War? That was a big deal.
Well, that was a big deal that was the name of the show, was a big deal.
Yeah.
So why does Netflix have to be
Raw is Netflix doesn't work because Raw is War. War was Raw backwards. It worked. It was almost a palindrome. But Raw is Exilfnet. Doesn't, Anyway, and by the way, here's another difference between the Netflix and the what's the thing that AEW is on?
Max.
Poor MJF. He gets blamed for everything. When you go to Netflix, the first thing that pops up is Raw on a screen to watch. That's your first choice of anything to watch. They are going all the way with this fucking thing, aren't they? And meanwhile, over on Max, Stacy had to do the goddamn search by alphabet, AE, to find the goddamn thing.
And again, Netflix, it's airing live on Max. It's a simulcast, so it's not like it's the only place you can go. You can just stay wherever you were watching it already. Like you said, you go to Netflix, the first thing that pops up for me is the option to watch Raw live, even before it's on.
Yeah.
And then I get like 30 minutes of like weird, I don't know what, like Seth Rollins dancing for the camera. There's like all sorts of weird shit they put up with a clock saying like 30 minutes, 28 minutes, whatever it may be.
Yeah, live event begins in 2 minutes, 14 seconds.
Yeah, it's not a priority for Max. And again, I think there's going to be a harsh reality after a year when they look at the numbers and they realize it's not like WWE. There is not a ton of people going through the archives of the pay-per-views, and there's not going to be a big audience watching live. And if you can't find it on there, people aren't going to bump into it, and wrestling fans aren't going to stay to watch other things. So no one's going to get any benefit from this whatsoever. And right now, unless things are done differently. Let me say that before they're like, oh, they said they'll never get benefits from Max. Yeah, if Max keeps handling it the way they are.
Yeah, yes, duly noted. And you might even be able to pull up documents on this, but I heard from last week, before we talk about this week's Raw, that you can't really, the numbers that you can, Uncle Dave, somebody with that type of mindset can go in and just analyze these numbers right down to the cob. But they're not the same as Nielsen numbers, and it's not figured the same or whatever. But they were figuring that several million fucking people watched that show last week.
Worldwide.
From any accounts is what yes.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of people, whichever way you look at it.
It's exactly what Netflix wants, is regular weekly programming that'll get millions of people worldwide, not just in America, but worldwide.
And then they'll see the thumbnail for the Strange Housewives of Bug Tussle and theoretically want to watch that too. But they were at the SAP Center in San Jose, California. The drone shot came in from the parking lot into what a fucking crowd. And and again, was this? That's a big fucking building. And I know they had somewhat of a stage. The end of it was blocked off to some extent, but was that a 15,000 person crowd? It looked every bit of it on camera. Maybe they're using one of those wide angle lenses that at the fair, it makes you look fatter.
I believe it's sold out. The last update I had from WrestleTix, which was a few hours before the show, there were only 407 tickets remaining for the current setup was 12,943.
Okay, 13,000 then. Okay, I'm sorry. I just eyeballed it at 15. Pardon my error. And the hosts of this show, Michael Cole and Pat McAfee. McAfee's back now, and I guess he'll be here till football, right? When he goes and stirs up another sports fans.
Which is usually a few weeks before he wears out his welcome. He gets annoying quick. It's too much.
The thing is, he's doing the Crusher in the AWA thing. He's going to take the summer off because it's going to suck anyway. He'll get mad at Vern. He'll go to the lake, and then they'll make up in the fall. So then an SUV pulls in the back, and it's Punk. He gets out, and they do the follow shot. He walks all the way to and through the gorilla position. And then suddenly out in the arena, you hear, like Mussolini in SAP. Why do they call it the Second Audio Program Center to begin with?
I don't know.
Or maybe is this a syrup company that has bought the naming rights, the SAP Center?
They have SAP. That's why it would be a syrup company.
In that case, we need some pancakes. Maybe that's why the new day is so over.
The SAP Center at San Jose, which was originally known as the San Jose Arena, and the HP Pavilion at San Jose. Doesn't say anything about SAP.
So HP Pavilion, so they went from steak sauce to maple syrup?
Trying to see how SAP... Oh, here we go. SAP. SAP is a European multinational software company based in Waldorf, Germany.
That's where they invented the salad, right?
This is how they conquer America, by buying our stadiums.
Damn Germans. Anyway, so Punk's on the way to the ring. And he got a big it's clobbering time. These people, they were a very with it crowd. They knew, what was going on and everything. And he had fun with the fans. They did the drone shots, the CM Punk chants. And I know this crowd struck me. Maybe I just don't watch all the WWE crowd shots, but was this crowd, did they look even younger than even normal WWE crowds lately? There was a lot of the demographic there.
There were a lot of Penta's kids at ringside.
Oh, come on. He's not goddamn that prolific, for heaven's sake. What is he, Peter Norton, the whole goddamn northern Mexico, Southern California area?
There was like 6 kids there, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, I'm not sure.
I don't mean just children. I mean young adult people.
This seemed like the core WWE crowd, the crowd they want.
Well, there you go. They to the core. And Punk did the promo, and he threw in a thank you to the firefighters and the first responders, and with the wildfires in California and everything. And then he got down to the promo, and again, I'm not going to do the thing word for word, and I wouldn't do it justice, but again, he told a story. Seth Rollins is no longer on my plate. Last year, the Royal Rumble didn't go my way. I tore my tricep. I couldn't see my dreams. But I made my biggest setback, my biggest comeback. And John Cena, I see you and I always have. And John Cena is declared for the Royal Rumble. Well, so have I. And he did a fired up promo about how he's going to win the Rumble, and you're going to da-da-da, and you're going to hear his music, Cult of Personality, and play my song. And all of a sudden, it's Seth Rollins music. And Punk fucking sells it. And like you should, instead, everybody that ever gets interrupted not only acts like they expect it, but they don't even seem disrespected or upset by it. And Punk's like, why can't it be Rhea Ripley? So here comes Seth Franklin.
By the way, he really said that. For anyone who hasn't seen it, it's not because you said it in your voice.
He said, why can't it be Rhea Ripley that interrupts me? It's got to be this fucking guy. And Seth looked like Elton Rollins, and he came out, and the fans whoaed for a long time. And then again, these people are following everything. Besides the fact you're seeing ever more and more signs in these buildings, which was a big thing that you started seeing in the Attitude Era when you knew that they were hooked on stuff. Seth took off his glasses and had a black eye, and the people started chanting CM Punk, CM Punk. And then Seth blisters Punk. I'd rather be the worst version of myself than any version of you. And last week was the worst loss of my career because it was to you. And I'm going to flush your WrestleMania dreams down the toilet for redemption for myself. So I am going to win the Royal Rumble, and I'm going to throw your ass out along the way. Now they've got John Cena and Roman Reigns and CM Punk and Seth Rollins. And who am I leaving out here? Oh, wait, the next guy to come out. As soon as he tells Punk he's going to dump him, then here's Drew McIntyre's music. And now Punk is fucking, goddamn, this guy too. And Drew comes out and says something that you think is knocking Punk, or that you would think is knocking Punk, about what a disappointment you are, blah, blah, blah. I can't do the accent. And Punk fires up on him, but he said, well, it's great that you're listening, but I was talking about Seth. And Drew tears Seth down because Seth was nowhere to be found last week to stop Roman Reigns. He's only out for himself. And then Punk said, fuck it. I can't take it anymore. I hate both of you. How about either one of you? Come on in here, let's fight. And then Drew said, oh, you want to fight tonight? And the crowd's roaring. And Drew said, no, why would I do that? Because Roman Reigns is playing chess and everybody else is playing checkers. So I'm going to have to do this all by myself. I'm going to win the Royal Rumble. And I'm going to win the title. Like, this is great. Everybody has a reason. And I wrote them down then. Roman, Cena, Punk, Uso, LA Knight, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, so far. And it was a 20-minute segment again, but it kept moving. It was great. And you wanted to hear what they were going to fucking say.
Yeah, another great opening segment. And it started right, again, they followed Punk right into the building, got going right away. Everything's for the Rumble. Everyone's declaring for the Rumble. Everyone has a path to getting to the world title through the Rumble, and it's all intriguing.
And do you notice they're not, oh, and I'm going to be in the Rumble, but I'm also going to be on Rampage Friday night, and I'm going to be at the tournament in some woman's apartment in fucking Tokyo to get a shot at it's focused. It's everybody with a reason to be in business for themselves, that not only just to win the title shot, but because their mortal enemies are also involved. And they each want to get even with, so, this is focus. This is the good booking part. To make all this make sense and have these people in the building in that large of a number, not only cheering everything you tell them, but chanting the things that you want them to chant and be involved in without you even having to tell them. Just point a little bit. Look at the pretty monkey. And there it goes. Anyway, Brian, would you like to talk about the big debut?
Yeah, I think this is the big story everyone was talking about with Raw.
Because Chad Gable had said last week to, who runs this thing? Adam Pearce, whoever. Get the best luchador that you can find, the greatest luchador in the world, and put him against me. I'm going to fight him. And Gable comes out to the ring, and he's getting the Kurt Angle, you suck chant, right, on the entrance, for obvious reasons, because, it's very reminiscent. And then comes the big reveal that they even said was an open secret, like anybody didn't know this was happening. But the blackout, and then the lighting, and then the Zero Mito, and here comes Penthouse. Although now I'm gonna call him Penta McGee in honor of Tom McGee, and I'm gonna start calling Chad Gable Brett Gable in honor of Bret Hart. Because I know, and no, I'm not saying he's bad as Tom McGee. But everybody's talking about this great debut, and we can talk about this in a second. Chad Gable is the one that made this debut great. I'm sorry.
Can you explain that for the listeners who don't understand the reference, the Tom McGee Bret Hart match, what it means?
Well, and we've talked about it before and in past on the program, but for the younger listeners, Tom McGee was a guy that Vince had found in, 1985? And Tom McGee was a bodybuilder and a power lifter and a gymnast, and he was like 6'5", and he had blonde hair and movie star looks. And Vince thought he was going to be the next Hulk Hogan because, look at this fucking guy. It's amazing. And he brings him in and he has a dark match with Bret Hart. And Bret Hart made him look like the goddamn next Hulk Hogan. And the problem from there was that he didn't work with Bret Hart every night for the rest of his life. And reality set in. And within a year and a half, they'd sent him to Japan. They'd cycled him through a couple places. They'd tried him in dark matches. And finally, they just said, fuck it. He was rotten. I'm not saying that...
In an era where they had a lot of rotten workers on their roster, that wasn't really a thing that prevented people from being hired.
No, this was stunningly. Like, the fans of the time laughed at shit that he did. But I'm not saying Penthouse, our friend from AEW, is that bad, but I wrote down, hear my notes? Hear that? I wrote down at the start of it, will he be any better here than he was in AEW? And he was doing the same fingers and the same poses, but he had a lot more energy to it. But the first thing they did when the bell rang, he grabbed a headlock on Gable with his right arm. And Gable tried to shoot him off, and it looked ridiculous. And I'm like, what the... how do you make your debut on WWE Worldwide Television and grab a headlock with the wrong fucking arm? And Gable was doing all of the stuff that Penta does, but he was doing it better than Penta. And the fans were chanting, Penta, Penta, because they were in San Jose. People are primarily in the crowd, obviously, from later on, bilingual or have some grasp of Hispanic culture and the lucha scene or whatever. As I said, I don't know how this would have worked in Kansas City. But looking at this guy just with a fresh eye, he took a shitty turnbuckle. Then he almost fell over on a fucking move. Then he tried to do a spring leg drop off the bottom rope, but he fell in a heap because he's used to cables and those ropes don't have any spring. And then, it just... Again, I'm all through this, and my notes are Gable looks great. Gable's heat looks great. Gable's bump on the fucking Canadian Destroyer is classic. At one point, I thought after they did a big dive with Penta doing the big dive, it looked like he hit hard on the floor. They got back in, it started to drag a little bit, and there was a head kick. Was that supposed to connect? I'm not sure it did. But then they did the Canadian Destroyer and got the This Is Awesome because the people in the WWE don't see Canadian Destroyers. If you give a guy one, he takes a great bump like Gable did and sells it like death. Well, that's just swell. But then Gable got an arm lock on him for a second, and then Penta came out and it did that thing where he drops him on his head, 1, 2, 3. So the point I'm making is he got over with the crowd here. I think if these people didn't already want to like him in this building because they had a clue to his reputation or whatever, this match wouldn't have done it. Chad Gable worked his ass off. And the promo afterwards, as I said, he struggled to speak English, saying, this is my new home. And the people were listening, kind of trying to get with it. But when he started speaking Spanish, it sounded good. And the people reacted to it. So for the Hispanic, we've talked about this, for the Hispanic market, I think this guy's probably a big addition. But if they expect him to get over everywhere that hasn't seen him to this audience, then they better put him in with a lot of guys like Gable.
Well, it'll be interesting. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it. By the end of this, I was like, man, the first 45 minutes of Raw tonight have been amazing. Between the Punk angle and this. I liked it. The only thing I
was swallowing there. I would agree the Punk angle was amazing. This was all right.
I thought this was really good. Again, hot crowd. in saying that I thought Penta had a great debut doesn't take anything away from Chad Gable, who has always been a great worker.
Right.
We've been putting him over since him and Jordan were wrestling FTR or the Revival. His push has always been the issue. You know, I mean, again, it's the same character. Was it a year ago? Was it less? Where all of a sudden they were giving him kind of a serious push on Raw. He was going after, I think, the Intercontinental title, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Gunther. He was going after Gunther. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And then he went back to kind of being silly again. You talk about that Canadian Destroyer. The way he took that Canadian Destroyer may be the best bump I've ever seen taken off it, but more importantly, the reaction it got. It didn't just get a pop. It got like a, we've never seen that before pop. Now, this is a move that's been around forever.
But not
point.
in the WWE.
Exactly. Penta is one of the guys, I believe, guilty in the past in AEW, probably other places, where one guy does it and then they pop up and they run to the other rope and they hit the other guy and then they do it back and forth. This right here shows the importance of the difference. When you hit it one time and it's special, and in this case, it was right before the finish. I know it wasn't the finish. It was right before it. The crowd reaction was a big part of the story. The crying daughter at ringside. Penta did a promo in English. Again, not his first language. Did he ever speak English in AEW? Ever? Ever. They did a better job in one night. And again, Chad Gable's a great worker, but it's also his charisma and his personality too.
Right.
And, you know, he stands out from the average luchador here in 2025. They did a better job in one night with the merchandising, with everything, with Penta, than Tony Khan and AEW did in 5 years.
Well, and
they talked about his past on commentary. Lucha, other than AEW, Lucha Underground Champion, TNA, whatever they said. They didn't say AEW, but they did about as good as you're going to do to put him over on night one.
And that's also something they're going to continue. They have producers for their matches. If you ever do see the spot where the one guy gives the destroyer and then the other guy hops up and blah, 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 back and forth, you'll never see it again, and they will have called it in the ring, and he'll get chastised for it because the producers won't allow that kind of thing to happen to keep the big pop when they see the move. And additionally, they're going to put him in with guys that can enhance him for the most part, rather than, again, on the other side of the street, they will put people in with anybody with that because Tony has no knowledge of or perspective on this guy's style won't lend itself well to getting this guy over that I want to get over. He won't be able to do his stuff right. I need to give him this guy or whatever. They just put people in there and hope for the best. So he will be produced and he will be much bigger, already is in this company, than he was in AEW, because they'll accentuate the strengths and eliminate the weaknesses.
What'd you think of his selling? Did you ever see him sell like that in AEW?
Well, no, because they just hop up and do things. And at one point, I could see he's not used to this, right? When he was down trying to sell, I think, the leg or whatever. But he, again, is being produced. And the opponents will say, oh, no, you know, if I'm going to do this, then we need to get this reaction, and then I'll do the other thing for you. And he will assimilate into the system, hopefully. But no, already, you know, there was nobody producing them or explaining the flow of the match or any goal of business of the match. It was just, yeah, do what you guys do. Good or bad, that's what they were doing. Good and bad, both.
What do you think Ray Phoenix is thinking?
He's thinking, God damn it, if only I hadn't the choke slam off the ring apron through the table where he broke his arm. That had to be where they're adding the time, right?
I don't know, because I think that may have been, that was a while ago. I think he had to have renewed since then, unless he signed a 5-year deal right out of the gate. I don't know.
Good Lord. Anyway, moving along. Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser. Now, Brian, I have to tell you, I forgot to prep the people on how I watched this. It was on the Netflix, obviously, but I wasn't in the TV room. I was in the bedroom because the bedroom TV remote has me a couple of buttons where I can back this thing up and scoot it forward a little bit. And there's still no on screen, so I don't know what I'm missing or how far back I'm going or whatever. But during this match, my chicken bacon, cheesy bacon pot pie was ready. And so I paused it, but in the process of going to get and eat my pot pie, I started it again, but I didn't make any notes because it was Sheamus. And I wish if only they could do with Sheamus what they did with Drew McIntyre, or if Sheamus could do with Sheamus what Drew McIntyre did with Drew McIntyre. But otherwise, Sheamus won and argued with Braun Breaker. Is that basically the way you saw it?
Oh, I didn't see it. Remember I said like a month ago, I have a rule now, no more Braun versus Sheamus versus Ludwig. I don't want to see any of them in any combination anymore.
Okay, but
and then it's been nonstop since then. I thought that was the end of it.
Would you have wanted to see my cheesy chicken bacon pot pie?
What kind of cheese?
Well, it was the cheesy
pot
sauce.
Pie? Nah, I'm not a pot pie fan.
But I get the crust all crunchy.
Yeah, but it's still just I don't know. It's not really my thing.
So now you don't like pot pies either?
No, it just seems like I should be like, I don't know, sitting in the dirt in England and like 200 years ago eating a pot pie. I don't.
No, it's chicken. It's white meat chicken. It's vegetables. You got your peas. You got your carrots.
Peas and cues.
You got the delicious sauce with the cheesiness in it and the hint of bacon.
Is there bacon?
That's why they call it a cheesy chicken bacon.
That's why they call it that?
That's why they call it that. There's just the hint of
You know what? Maybe I would like to see that more than the Sheamus Ludwig match.
All right.
I'm sure it was great. I'm sure it was great, though.
Now in the back, Sammy comes up to tell fucking Seth that if he wants to talk, he's there, because Sammy's always the peacemaker. But they've announced that next week it's going to be Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre, because they're going to settle their issue. And then Seth got pissy with Sammy about Sammy helping Roman. So even the people that are against the people that help Roman are still mad at each other. This is very intriguing. And then we got Gunther in the ring. And again, boy, in the suit and the nerd haircut, and he looks like a narc, and what a fucking heel. And he works like Gene Kaniski at his prime. There's nothing not to like about Gunther. And he doesn't care who the head of the table is. All that matters is the World Heavyweight Championship, and that's what he's got. And then all of a sudden, Jey Uso's music hits, and I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. Because I think now that Jimmy is a better worker than Jey, don't you?
I can't make that judgment.
I'm just saying, Jey is over like crazy. And the people love him and the gimmick, and he's selling merchandise. But goddamn, I don't even know if I want to see him wrestle Gunther with just those matches. And even Jimmy now, I think is. But nevertheless, Jey got to the ring quick. He didn't come from the crowd. He came from the back, but he milked the wave, and they had the drone shot going, and the people were yeeting. And what a fucking spectacle. But again, the rib on him is when he started speaking, he was already blown up. And he's made it part of his thing where he's just out of breath and just fucking, oh shit, I'm shitting myself that I'm here and you people love me. And he wants the World Heavyweight title, and he made a challenge for Saturday night's main event to fight Gunther, and Gunther laughed at him, said, "You're serious?" And Gunther did the thing, yeah, I beat you twice. You can't beat me. You're a really talented tag team wrestler, Jey. So Saturday night's main event is fine with me, but you better not do that. And Gunther starts walking out, and Jey says, hold on, everything you said is true. And it was a combination of him being heartfelt, having a little bit of a squeaky voice, and still being blowed up. But he's doing a thing where everybody's always said, I'm just a brother and I'm just a guy. And I'm just, well, you're going to respect me when I beat your ass. So if he could just tighten up his work a little bit, he's got everything else and people want to like him. But now we got Gunther and Jey Uso coming up for Saturday night's main event. And I got to say, I'm probably still putting my money on Gunther. It better be Gunther. They need to save him for something big.
Well, the other thing is, if Roman Reigns really wants the world championship, is he going to go after Cody or Gunther?
Well, see, that's the thing, is Roman has to go after Cody because it wouldn't make any sense otherwise. But since they have 2 world titles, they got to have somebody that wants the other one. And that's where Jay comes in. But nevertheless, we're going to see it. So Saturday night's main event, they're still claiming that Hulk Hogan will be a part of it, right?
Yeah, they're going to have to pipe in the crowd noise like they used to.
I think they're going to have to throw a goddamn sound muffling blanket over the entire arena. I don't know if they'll be able to cover that up.
Maybe if he doesn't come out with a heel manager, maybe that was the problem.
Now, everybody loves Jimmy Hart at this point. My God, he's got as much heat as a fucking igloo.
Has he ever done a good interview about music in Memphis?
What, you don't mean like a good promo on a wrestling show?
No.
You mean a good sit-down interview? I don't know if anybody is. He's been on this program back in the day.
Well,
we did talk about some of that, I think.
You hear like random things like, "Oh, I was in the studio, baby." Ooh. But you never hear like, anything about Sun Records, Stax Records.
Oh,
Alex
but
Chilton,
also,
the Box Tops.
He was on
Big
tour
Star.
with Dick Clark in the 60s, the Dick Clark Rock and Roll Show, and all those other fucking
You never hear too many stories about
Freddie
that.
the Dreamers.
He's just like, "Oh yeah, we were there," but it's never like, "I remember Mark Lindsay fucked the dog." Like it's never anything, except I was there.
Well, Jimmy tried to stay away from most of the canine carnal knowledge. But anyway, then they had some more shit go on this program. And here's another thing about the Netflix. I watched it live because I had my doctor's appointment this morning. And so Monday night was last night, by the way. I'm stooging off where we are in time. And so I was watching it live, and this is where things started getting a little hazy. They had the Intercontinental Women's title match between Lyric Valedictorian and Dakota Kai. And I remember vaguely nodding as I said, "Oh, it's over." And Sami Zayn and The Miz was next. And that's when I really nodded off.
Nodded off. You said I vaguely nodded. Like,
I was vaguely
at the results
nodding.
of the match.
But then, no, I was vaguely nodding off. But then Sami and The Miz came up, and that's when it really happened. So I don't know what happened there. Did anybody beat Sami up from the various heels that are after him?
I don't remember.
Well, then hopefully Sammy's still okay. And then Rhea Ripley came out to do an in-ring promo. And the chants of "Mommy, Mommy." And she said, "Mommy is back on top." And then the Refrigerators music played. And out came the human Barcalounger herself. And I didn't know that they actually bred pleathers to be that large, that they could make that outfit out of one piece.
It didn't seem like those fans wanted to see her either.
Well, that's the thing. The nails on a blackboard voice, and the fans were booing her in sort of that, "Oh, God, no, don't, please. The residual ugly is going to ruin our chubby over Rhea." And they started talking to each other, and I went back to sleep. What happened?
They beat each other up a little bit. Bayley got involved, and then Bayley and Rhea got rid of Nia, and they were kind of celebrating sisterhood.
Sisters are doing it for themselves.
That's right.
Well, and let's go to the brothers, because the main event of this program was a street fight between Damian Priest and Finn Balor. And they have been sniping at each other since they were in the goddamn group, the Judgment Day, and then they've blah, blah, blah. And this is maybe something that's gone on a little long. What?
You watched this live?
Yes.
So when this came on, When this came on, did you have the same thought as me? Like, "Oh, wow, this is kind of early to go to the main event."
Well, no, because I was in the bed to where that I could see the TV screen and I could see my notepad, but I couldn't look right over the bottom of the mattress and see what the clock said. So I didn't know where we were in the scheme of things, time-wise, when this match came up. I just, here's another one of these goddamn street fight matches. And the chairs, and the crashing through the tables, and the fighting in the arena. And that's the thing is, I would nod off, and I would wake up, and they'd still be doing the things I just described, and I would nod off and wake up again, and they'd still be. So I don't know what I missed and what I saw, but there was a lot of street fightingness, chairs and tables and arena, and the same as every other goddamn thing that anybody does these days. And so when I woke up, the screen was frozen. And I was like, what the fuck? The show's over with. So I hit play because I don't know how to work the Netflix, but I figured I'll just hit something to see what happens. And the show started at the beginning. The cold open, right? And I'm thinking, well, I got to fast forward now a couple hours in to see the rest of this goddamn match. So I fast forwarded 2 hours in until Stacy walked in the room and said, that's last week's show. What? I'd popped last week's show up. Somehow it automatically, they're going to make you watch this shit. Even if you're trying not to, it's going to come up. So then I had to go back to the correct show and then start playing it and fast forward 2 hours and whatever into that to see Priest chokeslam Finn 1, 2, 3. And then the show went off the air and it was only 2.5 hours long. So to answer your question, no, I was not surprised because I didn't know what time it was, but then I was surprised when the show was only 2.5 hours long. And I still didn't like the street fight because it's a goddamn street fight. Yeah. What'd you think?
I guess it was fine for what it was. I'm not a big fan of these kind of matches, and I haven't been a big fan of the Priest Balor feud. Hopefully it's over. I know
you're not a big fan of Priest. Many of us aren't.
Well, hopefully
you're playing for the opposing team anyway.
Hopefully this feud is over when he goes to AEW. It'll be Damian Rabbi. But hopefully this is over.
Can he get the collar?
They did the thing where they did a spot off of a giant area. I don't even know how to describe this.
I saw that through
a table
things.
And then Balor got stretchered out, but then Priest decided, now I'm going to really end this. And he went back and started beating up him and the rest of the Judgment Day once and for all.
That's a babyface move. Beat the guy up while he's on the stretcher.
Well, as a way to say goodbye to the feud.
Well, hey,
I'll show you.
Say goodbye to the stretcher. So I'm going to kick your ass while you're on it.
So I'm watching this and I'm like, all right. I mean, I kind of am done. I don't want to watch anymore. What else is going to be on this show? Because now they can go past 3 hours. They didn't go past 3 hours. The credits came up and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then that was it. That was a pleasant way to end the night. It ended up, I didn't think it was going to be a nice way to end the night, and then it ended up being just perfect. What a surprise ending. All right, I can go home now.
We got where were you watching it? Down at the goddamn pool hall?
We don't discuss the things that happen at the pool hall.
You were watching the show on the big screen over at the House of Ill Repute in Teterboro, weren't you?
I don't go to Teterboro. I go out of Morristown.
Okay, they opened up a closer branch.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that was Raw for January the 13th on the Netflix. And again, I mean, Saturday night's main event is coming up again. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Hulk Hogan on that program, but they've got matches lined up for that. The Royal Rumble has 50,000 fucking tickets sold or whatever. There's multiple stars in that. They're cooking for that. They ain't going to go out of business in the next couple of weeks.
No, they certainly won't.